there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about two films from the Shaw Brothers. One from the Shaw Brothers collection, one I bought from 88 Films. So it's going to be the 36th Chamber of Shaolin and Human Lanterns. Now, the 36th Chamber of Shaolin was directed by Lo Carl-Leung and stars Gordon Liu. And Human Lanterns was directed by Chung Sun and stars Tony Liu, Quan Tai Chen and Li Lu. So, Human Lanterns is a pretty dark film. I'll get to that after, I go through the chambers, 36 chambers, right? So 36 chambers it's hard to not start this by saying, this is so good, you just have to go see it. Because it's a stunner. It's really one of the best of the Shaw Brothers films I've seen. And according to who said, Touch of Film, it's amazing and it's one of his favourites. And so, it really is wonderful. It's one of those ones where just everything works, everything comes together. And one of the things I've got to say, just by watching the Shaw Brothers collections, for the Shaw Scope collection, Lo Carl-Leung is kind of like the most valuable player in these collections. Like, his films in the first volume were my favourites of the volume. And he's the first director I went to for the second volume. And I've got some other films, 88 films from him. I just really like his style, because he actually has kung fu scenes, but he's also making films with a plot that you can follow. There's like a story beyond just having the fight scenes. He always seems to have like things about someone learning to do something through kung fu to deal with their own demons, whether it be dealing with their wives and family, whether it be just dealing with their culture and what their legacy means, or just deal with just learning technique and learning how to be a better person. There's always something there that's actually a story as well as having the action scenes. And the action scenes always tied to characters and what they're about and what the problem is. So he doesn't throw in tons of action that it's like, what's there causing an action scene, but so what? Now he actually has like action scenes that feel like they're there for a reason. And people don't get good at action scenes until their characters are ready to be good at action scenes. So in this film, there's not much action, like actual like kung fu action till the end. Because at that point, the lead character's ready to do the action scenes. Until then, there are little bits of fights, but they're awkward fights, because they're dealing with someone who doesn't know how to fight. And he's against people who are much better than him. So he's basically running away from a lot of it. So for the first third, there's not much action, really. There's little bits and bobs. There's a little bit at the beginning to show that the people are under the thumb of the oppressive regime. There's a little bit of action to see someone getting beaten up and showing how strong and villainous the villains are and what the hero's fighting for. And then you see quite a few of his friends and family are killed really quickly and he has to go on the run. And then it's this training scene. For a very long part of the film, you really only get the payoff to the training for the final small section of the film, but it's actually about his progression from being someone who's a young man, who's a student, to learning about how to actually deal with the revolution, how to deal with what's going on in this country, and then having to go on and run and learning from the monks how to approach the things that are causing problems in a different way, and having to learn to grow up and how to learn to deal with things with less emotion, but actually be more precise in how he deals with them. So it's a growth film. It's a film about I'm learning from a boy to a man. That's the film, and it's really well done. Because in the first section, he's very keen to help the rebels fight against a regime that's crushing his people, and he's smart, but he's just the smartness of a youth who thinks he knows too much. But he's not really over the top in his arrogance either. It's like it's legitimate. Like, this is what a young person who thinks they probably know more than they actually do would feel, but he doesn't feel like oppressively annoying or anything. It's just like, this is a kid who is trying his best under trying circumstance and he has a little bit too much pride. And Gordon Liu plays him. He plays him as naive and trying too hard. The character is trying too hard, but the performance isn't trying too hard. The performance knows what it is. Then he has to go on the run. He loses all his friends, and he reaches the Shaolin Temple and actually manages to sneak in while injured. And that's where he starts to progress into something else. So there's lots of films where you have young people in the Shaolin Temple or a different temple and learning slowly through the experience to be better at who they are, and then they can face the world properly. That's a typical story, but this one does it really well. Partly because of who's involved, and partly because of the time they take. A lot of these films, the Shaolin Temple is a certain section amidst all these other things going on, and the revenge thing is much bigger. And this one, they kind of, there's no revenge sequence. It's much more like, how do we deal with the problem outside the world? And that comes really late. But you actually are stuck with him for 7 years in the Shaolin Temple. And for the first year, he doesn't learn anything. He just brushes up. And eventually, as I asked him, like, can I learn to fight now? Because they've actually been making sure he kind of calms down slightly. Because they know he's a troubled person. And it's the joy of just watching him having to be humbled slightly. And then when he goes to the 35th chamber and he realises it's just about meditation and being at one with the world, he's not ready for that at all. He's like, he needs to actually put the work in. And it's about him brutally having to put the work in, having to learn how to deal with balance on his legs, then balance with his arms, and strengthen his wrists, strengthen his head. All of this, build himself up. Before he even learns to fight, he has to learn all that stuff. And he has to learn it well. Like, he's not allowed to go to the Kung Fu stuff until he has the body strength and the inner strength of actually figuring things out. Looking at something and saying, okay, how do I deal with this? What's the issue I need to deal with? And then put himself back from his emotions to actually say, okay, what's the actual logical way around this? What we're missing? And that's what you see from him the whole film, is him trying to work out what's the logical way through this. So it's about instead of being learning how to fight, it's about what's the meaning behind the fighting. That's the point of the film, not the actual fighting. So the fights you get are very good, but they're not the point, and they're not of interest in the story either. It's about him learning how to find a reason for what he's doing, why he's doing things. That's the story, and that's more compelling. So you see him first learning how to build up strength through all these exercises, and it's not done as a montage. It's done as a slow process. You see him a bit here, a bit there, a bit there. He skips times, but you can see him. This has been a long process. He has to go through this and figure it out. Like, what's he doing? And he's also told not to help other people who are falling around him, because you're ruining their progress as well. They have to learn on their own. They have to learn through their hard work how to get better. So he has to learn all of this stuff, like how to actually be kind, but not also not be indulgent of others, and slowly build up the kind of core strength. And then he learns to fight. And even there, it's a painful process, because it's about how to use your eyes, so you're watching for things without moving your head, how to use like poles and not have big movements that will actually make you weaker. And it's a small detail of learning each step through that actually is what the director focuses on. That's what it's written, that's what it's about. It's about the details. So by the time you get to the actual fights, you're really invested. It's not like it's like, when's the fight's going to begin? There's always something there that's interesting. There's always something tied to the fights. You always focus on, but it's about what's he really seen to do with the fights. So when you actually get to the fights, he's a different person. He's no longer the impetuous person. He still has the feeling that the Shaolin monks have distanced themselves from the world so much that they need to train people who are being oppressed, who don't have none of these skills, which the monks see as blasphemy against their faith. But they also know they can't really stop this kid either, so they they find a way to actually let him do what he wants to do and let him grow even more. So even when he's facing off against the monks in a sense of we disagree, the monks still look at him to try and help him get better without stopping him, but also stopping him from making mistakes, which is a really nice move. There's also a really good sequence where after he has completed all the 35 chambers, he has to he's told he can be a master for any of the chambers now because he's mastered everything. And one of the top guys says, no, he hasn't. He has to beat me before he can be allowed to do this. And that's kind of like the next year of his life, is trying to find a way to beat him. And by beating him, he learns how to create a new fighting style that he can defeat him. Because this guy's so expert, and this guy's, you think, oh, he's been cruel, but no, he's actually making sure this guy's as good as he thinks he is. And that extra years of learning, after he's hit the peak, and then suddenly been told, no, you're not as good as you think you are, and relearning again in a different way is what kind of steals him. Because when he's learning each technique, he's learning for revenge at the start. And he's learning to be determined to learn this stuff that keeps him going. And that last year, he has to relearn that to be self-sufficient and actually think about everything he's learned and how to put it into practice. And then he's okay to go out to face the world. So when he goes to face the world, he does not go and fight them like a kid. He goes to fight them as a leader who can see people's skills and actually bring them together and help them fight these oppressors. And that's what's really good at the film. Like, he does fight them, but he really fights them too. He fights them, but he also is aware of their flaws and works on their flaws too. So it's very much he's trying to teach them what he's learned, and he's going to help them defeat this local magistrate and all his cruelty to the people. But he's going to do it in a way that's going to help them. So by the end of it, he's opened the 36th chamber, which is the Shaolin temple actually showing commoners how to fight. These are no longer monks, so they're showing them how to defend themselves. And that's the point of the film, is him learning from the monks, but him teaching the monks that they have to be a bit more involved in the world, or the world around them will collapse. So it's like a process of both sides having to communicate with each other. It's like, you need to learn this, and you need to learn this that I know. So that's what's really good about the film, is it's that communication between different sets of beliefs, and it's patient communication. And it's done in a way that you can see each character's point, and you feel that you're actually in a story about everyone figuring careful information out and figuring what they need to know out, rather than being lectured to. Because there's not really lectures, it's just like scenes where they're slowly learning things. So, 36 Chamber of Shaolin is just wonderful. It's one of the best in the Shawscope collections. It's just, you gotta see it, it's just so good. Human Lanterns is kind of the opposite. It says, it's really enjoyable, but it's a trashy Shawscope film. Because, I mean, Shawscope did some really good films, those are some trashy films, and this is their horror movie. But they basically do a serial killer movie around the time that they were making. This was when Friday the 13th and a lot of slasher films were out in America. So they did a kung fu slasher film where there's a serial killer who is killing and skinning various people tied to these two guys who are in a rivalry. And he's playing them off each other. And the film was about them figuring out that they can play off each other because both of them are getting set up, and because they're such rivals, such bitter rivals with each other, he's killing people from both sides to suggest that each side is attacking the other side and then retaliating, and because they do not trust each other, they will not trust that the other side hasn't done this to them. So he's playing them off against each other, and it's all around these lanterns they're trying to win the lantern show because it's a big social thing in this town, and these are the two top guys who want to win it, and they're just been petty and vain. And it's a case of they have to learn the lessons by figuring out who this guy is and defeating him. And turns out one of them's had dealings with him before and has injured him before. But he still doesn't realise the guy's still going out to get him again. Because the character's kind of stupid. Both characters that these manipulate are really stupid, to be honest. It's a film. The joy of the film is there is no sympathetic characters. The two characters who are meant to be the protagonists are assholes. They're just awful people. And they're trying to make them look like complicated people, but they're really just awful. I mean, the biggest downside of this film is that one of them kind of gets some sort of redemption by learning his lesson, which is like, feels kind of wrong, because it's like, this guy was awful, he should not have learned his lesson, he should have died. It just feels like it's tacked on ending to make because it's until then it's a misanthropic joy of watching these awful people getting what they deserve, and all the people around them who are innocent of everything are getting destroyed because of the egos of these two guys, and avenges this other guy who's out to get them. He's creating these human lanterns of the skin of the loved ones to get revenge on these two guys who are just terrible people. And just having one get redemption at the end just feels like it's... No, that's not right. That just feels like it's a cop-out ending. So, I didn't like, but the rest of it is great because it is a horror movie mixed with kung fu stuff. And you have a magistrate who's useless trying to figure it all out, and he's always one step behind, even though we know exactly who's doing it. And it's but them, the two guys figuring out who's doing it, and it's all the machinations of how they're manipulated. And it's really enjoyably tacky and nasty, and it is a horror movie, and it is really excessively nasty. You get scenes of people getting skinned alive. Why? You could have suggested it quite easily, but no, they're going to show it because Friday the 13th. And it's like, it's really funny to see this in a, you know, what it's used in the martial arts movies, usually a lot more. You get some blood, but you don't usually get this level of gore. So it's quite funny to see it. And it is so tacky. And it is just like tasteless as hell. And that's the joy of the film. But it's not that well made, to be honest. I mean, it's like, the motivation of the villain is pretty basic. The motivation of the protagonists are pretty basic. All the actions are pretty basic. It's just the fact that they really go for it and are nasty with it and have lots and lots of like gore and lots of murders of people who don't deserve it. It really is like a slasher movie, also tied to martial arts. It's just that kind of thing. It's as tacky as basically Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires that Hammer did, which was a kung fu vampire movie. This is a kung fu serial killer movie, and it's just as you know, wrong in lots of ways, but kind of irresistible at the same time because it's so just wrong. So it's very enjoyable. I don't want to say much more about it beyond go watch it, because it's the joy of, you know, discovery of all the tacky elements the plot has. I mean, it goes exactly where you know it's going to go from the first minute. I mean, when I say the guy gets an improper redemption, you know they're going there from the beginning. There's nothing... There's no way they're going to end up so misanthropic. There's just no way. But it's not done very well how the redemption comes through. He's so awful for so long. It's like, really, you had to kind of do this much more subtly than this to make it work. But, so watch 36 Chamber of Shaolin for the craftsmanship, and watch Human Lanterns for the tacky joy of exploitation filmmaking. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you go and watch these two films, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.